Does anybody else need a pen? So we do have, there will be writing.
So I'm the only one that gets shamed?
You need a pen? No, I thought I saw your hand. You're just doing this. Okay, perfect. All right. Well, good morning. Thank you guys for being here today. My name is Liz Barton. I am going to be walking us through career development from reflection to action is the overall theme, the overall idea on how we're going to be approaching this. So I was actually inspired by Agnes and Tyler when I saw they had little pictures making themselves humans. So I've added that in to say, hello, I am a person, and to introduce myself a little bit to you guys. So my name is Liz. This is my husband, my dog. This was taken when we purchased our first home a little over a year ago. I've been working at CHEP since 2014. So I was actually a baby when I started working here. I was 20 years old. Spent my 21st birthday at a desk because I was a temp, so I did not have PTO. So I worked that 21st birthday and the day after because I had to, right? I was a temp in our finance department, business ops, and then moved to a temp position in the HR team. So my original goal was actually to be the president of the United States. That was my dream from 4th grade. I went to Rollins College, which is in Winter Park, Florida. Studied liberal arts education, so an international affairs degree on that path. President, that was the goal. But I started out kind of hungry Howie, started out janitor at a church, summer camp counselor, work study in the college, and then temp at CHEP. And now somehow I still work at CHEP 10 years later. But I'm so happy that I do, so happy that I have, and there's so many opportunities that CHEP has afforded me. So along the way I've been, again, that temp position, HR assistant, then into an HR analyst role. But between those two, I actually graduated college in 2017, and I wasn't happy with the fact that I didn't get that promotion in 2017. Hello, I'm qualified now. Where's my next level role? And I applied to several roles that were not right for me. Looking back now, I can tell that I should not have had those roles. I'm grateful I don't have those roles as I look at what those roles entails today. And what my job is today, and what skills I have, and what I like to do, what I find value in at work. So now I'm currently an HR manager for all of the TPMs in supply chain. So there's 45 sites, it's about 400 employees, and I'm able to manage I have a lot of relationships to manage, work with a lot of different teams that have been maybe underserved in the past. I've had TPMs in the past as part of my regional structure, but maybe haven't paid all of the attention to them before. So that's me. And we're going to talk about today owning our own career. We have to make sure that we're staying up to date with our skills. CHEP is moving towards being a skills-based organization. When we're making decisions on employment, when we're making decisions on people moving between roles, it's going to be about building skills, something that is truly, I can say I have this skill, I can do this. This is something that I will be doing in the future. And we need to make sure that we're remaining relevant in this ever-changing world, right? Oh, something I didn't mention on the last one as I'm feeling it. I'm 19 weeks pregnant and I'm running out of breath when I'm talking sometimes. So please bear with me. That's new. I present all the time, but I do feel that I'm a little bit out of breath. So just letting you guys know that. So what are we going to go through? 4 steps. 4 steps in owning our own career. It's reflect, engage, craft, and materialize. And we have within these kind of a subheading, and you'll see those as we go through. So the first one, reflection, subheading meditation. So bear with me. I'm going to pitch meditation to you for a minute. Meditation is a mental practice that involves focusing your attention on a specific object, thought, or activity to achieve a state of inner calmness or peace. It has numerous physical and mental health benefits and can be practiced in various forms. Okay? Why would I do this? Who cares about meditation? Reduce stress, improve memory, enhance willpower, better sleep, less anxiety, less depression. In general, right? The practice of meditation is something that's helpful to us. So why would we meditate? Meditation is not a way of making your mind quiet. It is a way of entering into the quiet that's already there, buried under the 50,000 thoughts the average person thinks a day. And that's from Deepak Chopra. When you think about that, 50,000 thoughts a day, you're living your life, maybe you want to do something different in your career, but how much time are you taking to stop, to reflect, and think on what that really looks like? So I've built up meditation, and we are going to meditate now. Just to be perfectly candid here. I'll be honest, I was a I thought this was hippy dippy nonsense for a long time, very against the idea of meditation. I'm a very practical person. I like things to be very tangible, and sitting and thinking does not seem to be conducive to anything to me. It doesn't make a lot of sense. However, there is a lot of value in taking that time to stop and think. So in order to frame up how we have this, how we move forward, what we will be working on in our development plans, we're going to stop and we're going to reflect. So I'm going to go ahead and put this image up. And then we have somebody whose voice is a little bit more peaceful, walking us through a meditation. It's about 5 minutes. So settle in. You need your feet firmly planted on the ground. And we'll go from there. Just birds. All right. So now we're peaceful, feeling contemplative. So on the first page of your workbook, there is a section, inhale, exhale, kind of a blank box. If anything popped into your mind just now that maybe was a surprise, maybe you're like, yeah, this is the path I want to be on, just go ahead and take a moment to jot that down. There's some prompts there too on this first step of reflection. I'll just give you a minute or two. Hopefully something popped into your mind in those 5 minutes that you can jot down. So when we think about our career, what is it that I'm good at? What is it that I'm not so good at? What do I really want to do at the end of the day? Something I found that really matters to me is feeling that I'm helping other people, and I'm of maximum helpfulness. That is truly like something that matters to me in my role, like that person-to-person connection in whatever it is that I do. And there's been other jobs that I've looked at that I don't think, maybe they had this specific thing that I thought I wanted, but looking back wouldn't have fulfilled that need for me, something that I want to do. And then what is it that I value? What is it that I feel like will be what I'm giving forth in the world, right? CHEP has so many different roles. We are a very large organization. There's a lot of different areas where you can work, where you can contribute. And the idea is that we're not just thinking, what does my boss do? Because that's obviously what my next job is. The idea is that we're thinking across the whole spectrum, that we're thinking, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I can do? What is something that I can bring to the table? And that's what I kind of want to challenge you to start out with. So our development goal is not just to be your exact peer, like whoever your peer is, and they're really good at this, so I need to be really good at that. What is it that you need to be really good at, and why? All right, so we do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on that experience. Again, it's thinking back, it's actually taking that time to consider what's happened and how we can adjust, how we can apply that to our lives. So on the next page, again, so this workbook I put together is not something you'll complete today by any means, but we're going to walk through how you can complete this, how you can come up with a development plan for yourself, what steps to take. Because some of this stuff you have to go do homework before you can come back and fill it out. So we'll just walk through what we need to do. So this next page is a strengths and development opportunities draft. This is actually just your scratch list. What is it that I do think I don't need to work on? I am excellent in this area. No need to continue improving in this area. And what is it that, I'm not so great at? I could probably take some time and learn a little bit more on how to handle. So I have here some actually examples listed, real life examples, things that you do potentially need in whatever your next role may be, or maybe things that will help your role today that would be beneficial for your role to have at this point in time. So the idea is that you would fill this out based on what you just considered, what you reflected upon. When you've asked yourself those questions, what are the things that whenever this hits my desk, I'm like, I do not want to do this task, right? What is that? Why don't you want to do that task? Is it because you don't particularly like this, maybe it's an admin function you're not a big fan of, or maybe it's because I forget how to come up with the formula to make this easy. So now I'm not very good at this part of it. So it takes me some time. I'm not the best in this area. So how can I strengthen that skill? And really thinking about that is what will help us to create that development plan. So it will help us to create that goal and identify it as a need. So that's the drafts page. But while you have those drafts in mind, people won't give you feedback until they think you actually want it, right? So are you asking for feedback regularly? Are you asking people, what is it that I can improve upon? If you're not, then people may not be voluntarily telling you, right? Nobody is just walking around saying, hey, not nobody, but not everybody will. Say, hey, you really gotta work on this, or this could have gone better, right? Seeking that out, being open to that means that then people will do that next time. They'll see you and they think, hey, she appreciates, so let me let her know, right? And some of my best feedback experiences have actually been ones that I didn't ask for in that moment, but they were people that I have asked in the past that came up to me and said, hey, this is something you can improve upon. This is something I noticed in this particular setting. And I was like, thank you. So I did not know that. I was here. My perspective was here, and I didn't know what it looked like from that side. And I know that you're looking out for me, right? So making sure that we're seeking those people out, the ones that have told you something that maybe hurt your feelings a little bit. But the reality is that it's something that you needed to know if you're going to be willing to adjust, if you're going to be willing to make adjustments. So those would be potentially your boss, potentially your peer, potentially your direct reports, if you have direct reports. Those are people you interact with on a day-to-day basis frequently. Maybe it's the people that you partner with, right? Maybe you have a consultative position and you support others, so you want to reach out to those. Hey, is there anything that I can do differently, or something that you feel that I can adjust to help you better, to support you more in whatever your role might be? So taking that time and getting that feedback from others, because if you're just going off of your own perception of yourself, you may not have all of the facts, right? You just have your own perspective. So this is a really crucial step in that reflection part. All of this is way before we've come up with how we're going to improve. We need to figure out what we need to work on. And this is the step that oftentimes can be breezed over, right? You think you have the list, or you look at the job that you want and you see that skill, so you're just going for that. And instead we need to take that time and think about, for you, what makes the most sense. So from here, you'll get that feedback, add it to your other draft list, and then you have a nice final list. Something about me, I don't know if anybody else can relate. I love to buy a journal, and I love to not write in it because it's so nice, right? I don't want to mess it up. So I gave you that draft page so you can feel like you can write in it. And then this is your final page in case you're similar to me and that you don't want to ruin it with actually using it for what it's meant for. So this is where you would come up with that list. Okay, this is where I have developmental opportunities. This is where I finalized, I've thought about it myself, I checked with others. Sometimes you think, hey, I really need to work on XYZ skill, and not a single other person thinks you need to work on that skill. So you start asking, well, what about this? You didn't mention this one. Maybe you don't actually need to work on that. Maybe that's a perception thing. Maybe it's that you needed confidence to know that you are actually succeeding in this area, and you don't need to do that. You don't need to spend a lot of time working on that. And again, you won't find that out without asking for that feedback. So that's why that's a very important part of this, and why we can't fill this out here today, right? Because you have to go do that part. So, but no, definitely. And it is important that we can be that organization, that's what we're striving to, right? That we are willing to say, hey, I'm looking out for you in this way, right? This is something that I noticed this, and I would like to see that you potentially, that you're aware of this for the move forward. So thank you, Renee, for the great example. You got a water bottle for that. So that was the first step, right? That reflection, meditation, and then we're gonna move on to engage. So the subheading of that will be visualization. So the next page, we have a list of aspirations. On this list, you've just kind of thought about the things that maybe you can work to develop, and the things that maybe there's some room for you to grow with. So what are those areas of interest that you do aspire to? Near term, 0 to 2 years, and then that longer term, 3+ years. When we're looking at this, some things to keep in mind. We want to stay away from thinking of specific titles. Again, that is not how we want to approach this whole idea, is that you're a person, you're not going to be a job. You have to come up with the skills. You have to come up with, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to feel. This is what I want my job to look like. So that's what we're doing in this area. So again, that focus on skills. Think of those that you look up to. Is there somebody that you look at and you say, I want what they have? When I see them do this particular project, when I see them lead this meeting, when I see them do this, I say, I want that. That's something that I aspire to be. I want to be able to have that confidence or do whatever it is that you see in somebody else. And think of those people, keep those kinds of things in mind too, because so you have an example of what good looks like, I'm sure, in your jobs. And then the idea of this is also that we're pre-planning. We're thinking ahead. We're thinking about also what barriers may come in the way. If we think of those on the front end, then we're not shocked when they get there. And if we do have to face those, then we're not going to be struggling through not really knowing how to address it, right? And say, oh, I don't know, I haven't really I didn't think about this, and then we throw away the whole plan. So the idea is that we are kind of flexible and thinking ahead in that capacity. So on the next page, this is just a quick little page, but we have here a vision manifesto. Actually, Agnes provided this to me when she said she wanted a career development workshop and a really thorough one. She suggested a vision manifesto. She also suggested we do a vision board, okay? So we're not doing that. I was like, I'm supposed to get magazines in there? I don't know about doing, everyone's supposed to fly home with vision boards? I'm not sure. So we're doing a vision manifesto is the idea, and just walk you through what to do after you've come up with that list of aspirations. The idea is that you take some time, and maybe you don't do it on this because this is a pretty page, right? You do it on another page and then you transfer it here. But you write down the version of your life you want it as if you are already there. I am, right? I am walking into my house and I have this next to me. These are the people around me. My job brings me this satisfaction. I am, right? I'm planning my next vacation. I'm doing this, and really writing down what it is that you see, what it is that you expect, how you feel in your relationships, work, finances, spiritual life, and health. I've gone to the gym this week for sure, right? That's on your list, no problem. I have plans to go tomorrow. That's on your vision manifesto that you're documenting it. You are 1.5 times more likely to achieve your goals if you actually write them down. That's not that hard, right? Like, that's a pretty significant impact, but it is taking that extra time. It's probably the person that's taking the time to take it seriously that is going to have the benefit, right, of having that potentially come true at the end of the day. So the idea is, now we've thought about it. Where am I? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to be? And that's what we do at this stage. We're visualizing it. What does that really look like for us? So after we're done visualizing, does anybody in here have a vision board, by the way? Of course you do, actually. Anybody else have a vision board? Yes? Okay. Yeah, no, if you take the time to do it, and it's not in a conference room with very little time, it can be very impactful, is that this is what I want to see, this is what I want to manifest. And I just want to call that out too. The only reason it was just a logistics nightmare, but in reality, there is value in it. There is value in taking that time and what is it that I want to see. So all of this is great, right? We've thought, we've meditated, we've visualized. But now what? How? What does this really mean? How do I apply it? What will I do? That is really big for me. Whenever somebody says that, I want to see this, how? What do you mean? What do I do? So that's what we'll talk about next, is creating a development plan. So who has heard of the 70-20-10 rule guide? Some people, right? Okay. So those of you that haven't, it's a very HR-y thing. So I know I've had my HR colleagues in some rooms and they're like, yeah, obviously. But 10% of the learning that you do at work is formal learning, classroom learning, taking a course on academy, going to school, getting a certification, okay? 10%. So that was 100% of the first 12 years of our lives, right? Or, 18 years of our lives. Was that formal learning in a classroom. We're done with that. 70% of what we learn now is going to be experiential, on the job, real life, in the trenches, going through it. And that's going to be how we learn what to do next, is actually doing that. And then 20% is that social learning. So that's going to be shadowing people, having a mentor, somebody else letting you know what to do, showing you the ropes along the way. So 70% is you hands-on, sometimes failing, sometimes struggling through, sometimes calling others while you're trying to do it. What is it that I do at this next step? But with this in mind, how do I actually come up with what goes into the development plan? 70% has to be real life. How do I get real life experience doing a job that maybe isn't my job, or things that aren't necessarily in my role? So some of it will be stepping into other areas. Some of it will be taking on extra projects within your role if you can. Asking your leader, what is it that I can do to support? How can I grow? Making sure your leader is a part of your growth and development is also crucial. Your manager should know exactly what you aspire to, what you want to grow up to be, what you want to move on and do, right? And that grow up to be, I have heard some people don't like hearing that, but that's just like a jokey, what is it that you want? Is this where you're happy? And that might be fine too. You may let your leader know, I have no intention on ever doing anything else. This job makes me happy. This is something, I would be happy to work on this project or make this area better, and this is where I want to expand, but it'll actually be right here though, in this space. And that's something that your leader needs to understand. And the only way they'll understand that is if you communicate that. So it is important that you share that with them. And then there's all sorts of other things here, right? Working on different presentations, being a mentor, having a mentor, working through these different areas is how you can help to build that path. Who here has heard of a secondment? Secondment? Robert? That doesn't count. Anybody else? You have. There's only been like 2 people in each session, so it's fine. Renee, can you share what a secondment is? You're not getting a second water bottle though.
You kind of take a break from your job and do a different job.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know. And I think it looks like secondment to me. And though I think the Europeans do it more than us, and that's why we say it like that. That's how they say it. Secondment. But yes, if I look it up, that is how it's supposed to be pronounced. So that's exactly what it is you take the time to take somebody else's role, right? So I think actually my role will be coming up as a potential for a secondment, as I'll be going out on leave for a little bit in coming months. So then there would be that chance for somebody to potentially take a step in and have an opportunity to be in a different area, in a different capacity than they've been before. But somebody came up and said, hey, how will I know when those come up? You're gonna wanna make sure your boss knows that you're interested in something like that, where they're interested. Sometimes those aren't posted for everybody to apply to, but there's gonna be, hey, we know people that are actively moving towards this, people that are taking the right steps, making it very clear that's where they wanna be. So those are going to be the ones that would probably be selected to do a role like this versus somebody who's never said anything ever about this. So making sure that that's part of the process too. You can document where your development goals are, what your interests lie in Workday. I know that's something, have you guys gone to Kim and Teresa's yet? The brand, okay. That's something that they cover, so I won't cover it. But using Workday to document and make sure that then if we're talking about you guys in a meeting or we're talking about a role, that then your name comes up. Somebody looks it up. What is happening? Somebody looks up, hey, yes, that is something they're interested in, or that is a skill set or a job that they've had in the past. That has to be documented somewhere. Otherwise, it's only in the head of one person, the one person you told, or the few people that have worked with you directly. So they'll talk to you about that as well. But all of this, these are the kinds of things that you put into a development plan. And who has heard of a SMART goal? Yes, hopefully everybody has. We all have objectives and they're all supposed to be SMART. So SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. I won't get too far into that because I do think most of us already know what those are. But when we look at this example development goal on page 9, we have all of these components, right? The overall goal is to develop project management skills. That's not necessarily specific in that one sentence, but when you look at this overall, this is a very SMART goal. This is a great way, good plan to get here. So what does that really look like? Again, I can give you a blank one, and to me, I'm like, how? What do I put in there now? I have this great blank piece of paper, and that's why we have this sample one. So research and complete 1 to 2 project management courses in Academy. We're assuming we start at the start of the fiscal year, so it's June 30th. So I need to do that by July 15th. I'm giving myself 2 weeks, starting the year off strong, taking these courses, getting that 10% out of the way early, starting with the 10%. And then moving on, identify the skills I need to develop to manage projects, to be better at managing projects. Having a date there, meet with my line manager, set feedback, get the feedback. If you don't do that until July, you don't do that until April, you think you're almost done and your boss is like, yeah, that was a mess. That's not gonna work, that wasn't sufficient. Then you haven't done it, you haven't really achieved your goal and maybe you didn't realize that. We have to be focusing, making sure that we're getting that feedback along the way. And the idea is that we have this documented in steps, a process. This isn't something we just say, all right, I'm filling out my goal, this is what I want to do. And then at the end of the year, we're like, oh, I forgot I wanted to do that. I didn't do it. It's on my list of things to do. And I didn't get there. But if we have this, if you set this up, you put the calendar reminders that this is coming due to yourself, pops up, it's in your face, it's something that you remember that you have to do moving forward. And so this is kind of, again, just an idea on how to do it. But at the end, how will I know that I achieved this goal? How will I know? So that I've successfully planned the successful planning and execution of a project from start to finish. It's pretty telling, right? That's it. I achieved my goal. I have this at the end of it. I was able to develop those project management skills. So what happens when we aren't able to do? It's July 17th. We haven't done any of the project management courses. You have to be willing to adjust and pivot as well. Have the humility to say like, okay, well, I need to change my whole timeline because now I haven't done the first step, or this step didn't work out, or this project landed on my plate in my day-to-day job, and so I don't have the time to do this now. I didn't know that I would be in the trenches over here, so I'm gonna have to kick everything back a couple of months, but not losing sight of it because we have had that date change or something like that has come up is really important, is that flexibility. Has anybody here ever put together a development goal, truly outlined it, gone through the plan like this? Yes? Perfect. No, that's a great example, thank you. The cheerleaders part is really huge, and that's what we talked about, that's what I mentioned earlier, right, is making sure you have that person who you can get that feedback from. But if you've never let anybody know that it's safe to approach you with feedback, then people aren't going to approach you with feedback because they're going to think that you think I'm being mean. I'm not going to go and hurt their feelings. And, you know, but saying, I want to know where I can grow, where I want to correct, and having that approachableness will ensure that people do tell you. And you said candid in a way that made it seem like maybe it wasn't nice, right? It could have been like, oh, okay, got it, you know? And sometimes you have to take it and you have to swallow it. It doesn't feel good, but the only way to grow is for somebody to be willing to be candid, right?
And I think that's what I learned. You don't do anybody a favor to just give nice feedback.
Correct.
Even if especially if a person has talent, you gotta let them know how they can do even better. And that's why I learned too. Most people say, "Oh, good job." It doesn't help.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's true. I think it's Brene Brown that says it's being unclear is unkind. You need to be clear on what it is that you're communicating. They need to understand exactly where they can grow. And for you, somebody telling me, you know, I did this presentation yesterday first. I said, hey, I have to do this 4 more times. So let me know if there's anything that I can do. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I have to do it 4 more times. I want to make sure that it's impactful and that it makes sense. And, you know, good job. Great. Thank you. Is there anything that I can do? And then, actually, yes, perhaps you could. Okay, perfect. Thank you for letting me know that, because that will help the next people too. Instead of being like, well, I think it was fine, right? Because sometimes that is our instinct. It was fine. I did it fine. And nobody can tell me otherwise. And that could be the gut response. But we have to make sure that we have that willingness to accept the feedback, I think, is really, really important in getting us through actually succeeding in these goals. And then again, it's that moving a muscle. 10? We didn't agree on 10, Robert. Now I'm confused. All right. So we have reflected. And then we, what was it? Sorry, reflect. And then, right, we visualized. And now we're materializing. That means we're actually going to put this, we've crafted up our plan. Now we have to do it. So dreams are lovely, but they are just dreams. Fleeting, ephemeral, pretty. It's hard work that makes things happen. It's hard work that creates change. And that's from Shonda Rhimes, right? Very hard-working lady, if you know who Shonda Rhimes is. Television producer. Yeah, great stuff. Lots of good stuff that Shonda Rhimes is responsible for. And she could have dreamt up all of these things and instead has created these things. You have to actually put them into action. And that's going to be the key. And having this pretty journal, you have to actually then do what's written down, right? Then you have to actually approach it. So here's the thing for me. Move a muscle, something that is kind of a go-to. Like if I don't feel like I'm in a good space, I feel like I need to do something different, move a muscle. I just need to move some direction in some capacity and make sure that I'm continuing forward, right? Staying still, staying stagnant aren't going to get us where we want to be. So all of this reflection, visualization, manifestation, nowhere. You can write it all down and put it away and nothing will actually come of it. So we want to make sure that we stay close to the schedule. We talked about that, acknowledging when maybe you didn't get there. So I need to kick back the deadline. Having that flexibility. And then the additional is making sure that you share this plan with somebody, with your leader, with your mentor. So you have those cheerleaders. With an accountability partner, maybe that's just your close friend, right? Those are the people that remind me that I haven't been to the gym. My boss is not reminding me of that. But my friends, when I said, hey, I want to do this, this is something that matters to me. There are people in my ear reminding me that I wanted to do this. And it can be, again, it's that willingness to hear that, yes, you're right. But sometimes I need somebody else to push me, to remind me. And so you have to share where you want to grow for somebody to be able to help you get there. So the idea is that you're doing that as well. Abraham Lincoln has a quote, "I'm a success today because I have a friend who believed in me and I didn't have the heart to let them down." Right? I know, so cute. So that's one of those that, the idea of that is you've told somebody and now somebody's like, hey, how's that thing going that you were so excited about? So I'm excited for you. And today you had a rough day and you're like, yeah, you're right. I need to get back to that. Really want to emphasize that is making sure that that's something that Amelia talked about is having that team around you, essentially the people that are helping to guide you. And then update and adjust as new obstacles come in place. Or maybe you think that you did one of these steps and it wasn't great. So you need to do it again. You didn't really achieve it. It wasn't really successful. Or you feel like you have 70% of it, but before you skip on, let's make sure you've mastered it. Taking that time, that willingness to step back is also important in how we go about this. So, looking at all of this, then there's a page for progress update. Then a page is for notes. Again, in case you don't want to ruin the other pages, I really thought of how I approach notebooks when I made this. So, does anybody have questions, comments on how we go about? Yes?
I had a question about secondments.
Okay.
So you do the whole secondment. Do you go back to your previous position after it?
Yeah. That's usually what happens. Cool. Yeah. Of course, you have to partner with your manager. Your manager has to be willing to lose you for a couple months. And maybe they will be, right? If you've let them know that that's where you want to go, you've let them know that's something that you want to develop with. But absolutely, we have people that go and they've spent some time over here and maybe in a couple of years or a year later, then they have that. Here it is, I've already done the job. It went well, right? So, great question, thank you. Any other questions? No? Yes, ma'am.
Can you give a personal
Yeah. If I had to reroute, yeah. So I did have, it's funny, I was looking at this in Workday and I had one that I wrote like a million years ago and it was it was like literally 10 years ago. And I just never did it, right? And I could see that. So I applied for another role, and I didn't have this particular skill. It was a certification with HR. Again, that formal part. I now have the time. Before I didn't have the time, so I said I'll skip it and I'll get the formal part. Then I ended up getting the time. And so I spoke with my leader, and I was actually able to go take one of those, take a SHRM course, right? So I had the SHRM certification course opportunity, and I have not taken the test yet. It is on my list of things to do. The problem is that doggone deadline kept moving, right? There was some things that happened and work kept changing. But you know what I have is a friend, actually, who I will tell her she came up, who keeps asking me about it, who keeps asking me when I'm taking that test, because it's starting to be a little far from when I took the course, and I'm gonna forget, and all of that, right? But that's part of it too, is that sometimes is that I'm glad that I have somebody who will bug me, who will let me know that I said I wanted to do this, and now I'm just tired, and I'm not sure that I have the time at this point in time, whatever the case is. So that's definitely one of those things, though, is identifying where it is in my role. Somebody else told me, yes, this is probably something you can benefit from, and sharing that. And then my leader paid for me to take the course, right? And I was able to show I completed it successfully. I did all of the work required in the course. So that could be potentially an example, yeah. Yeah. And then when I think about the consulting others too, the feedback, when you think about where you want to move, I applied for a job within the organization, and I mentioned it to somebody that I consider to be a mentor, somebody that I worked closely with, and he said, Liz, you didn't apply for that job when it came up like a year ago, and you told me it was because it was missing the people part of the job, that you wouldn't be as close to the people, and that I was heavy in the organizing things part, which is something you don't like. And I was really focused on this one other piece. I said, well, I would like to not travel as much as I travel. So that's appealing to me. I want to do this job because I'm over it. He's like, right, but that's not what you really want to do. Mm-hmm. And I was like, why would you bring this up? But it's only somebody who knows you well enough, right? It's only if you've shared this with somebody who knows you well enough to know that they can tell you that, and that I am gonna say like, yeah, maybe you're right. And then I actually withdrew from the process. I said, you know what? Yeah, this is not what I'm supposed to do. I knew that last time, and right now I'm making kind of a short-sighted decision because of these other factors. And so again, it's that keeping in mind my personal, what is it that matters to me? What is it that I find brings me joy at work? Because if I don't have that, it's difficult, right? To wake up every day and not feel like you've done whatever. And sometimes it's just, I would like to feel like I accomplished something, whatever it is. But making sure you have that in mind for yourself, so you're not just plowing ahead and moving up in the same chain, and maybe that's not really where you find your passion or satisfaction, right? And again, CHEP has so many different areas, so many different functionalities where you can really thrive and succeed, right? And what it is that you're good at. So yeah, that's it. If you guys don't have any other questions, then I think we're all set. It's lunchtime. All right, thanks guys.